So today's talk will be on the history of Eurasian human origin from India over the last 100,000 years as revealed from the genetics, fossils and languages. In 1987 and 1988, two different teams of DNA specialists, they published their reports which found that the oldest human mitochondrial DNA lineages L0, L1, L2 and L3. These are found only in a few tribes of Africa and nowhere outside. Later it was further shown that the oldest male lineage, Y chromosomal lineage A and B, they too were found in the same tribes of Africa today. This became the basis for the claim that Africa was the home of the first human and that the modern human subspecies, Homo sapiens, sapiens, double sapiens, spread out from Africa. However, the main question was not answered. If the man came out of Africa, why did the African mitochondrial DNA lineages L0, L1, L2 and L3 and the male lineages A and B, the most ancient ones, are not found in any place outside Africa? Because that should have come out. Without answering the basic questions, the route map out of Africa was proposed, which bypassed India. This is because of the prevailing mentality that India was home of none. However, soon many disturbing facts, disturbing to them, came up. Metzpalu studied more than 50,000 genomes, DNAs, and he found that all the DNAs of Europe, Asia, and actually Americas, American Indians, they had their origins in India. Because M and N are the basic lineages of these areas, and their oldest portions are still found in India. And then N is split into N, R and U. And what happens in genetics? If one lineage splits into two or three, all of them continue to live together. So they are found in the same locality. So many people have worked on this, and more than 1,000 journal articles are published in international journals of science. And the first migration out of India, that went to Australia through Southeast Asia. And you might be knowing that there was a Sunda shelf, Sunda land. Indonesia was one landmass. It was not a group of islands before 7,000–8,000 years back. And after the last glacial age, when the water melted, it started melting from the glaciers, the sea level came up. So about 16,000 years back, the sea level started rising and the Indonesian area became islands and became separate. Metzpalu presented a detailed computer-generated map of the DNAs, and he found that Indian DNAs are the oldest and they are at their home. And later on, the European DNAs and on the other side Chinese ones, they have originated and emerged gradually over time as clines, and as the man went further away and away from India, they developed more and more changes in their genetic features, and finally they became very different from the original population. Haplogroup M migrated to all these areas you are seeing in this map, and N has got a wider distribution. R, which is a branch of N, is principally in Southeast Asia, China. U is predominantly, it is also a branch of N, is in Europe, West Asia, also in India. Kiwi seal, after this map, you see, when the U was published, then racist people started saying, see, this is the evidence of Aryan invasion from Europe to India. But Kivishield was able to demonstrate by further what you call studying the resolution, high resolution DNA study, that actually it had originated in India, and from India it had migrated about 50,000 years back. Its branch is U5A, and that is basically the branch which originated in Europe. Now, but M and N, who was the ancestor of M and N? The ancestor of M and N was L3. And L3 is not found anywhere else other than Africa. So it was proposed that possibly L3 came to India maybe 1 lakh years back, 100,000 years back, and then gave birth to M and N, and then anyhow L3 lineage expired, died out of competition with newer people or whatever. So this is the gene distribution map of non-Africa and Africa. You see in the upper part, the non-African lineages, DNA lineages are there, and in the lower part, African lineages are there, and they do not overlap. They are exclusive. So this can explain it, that L3 came out of Africa and then populated, first settled in India and then populated the rest of the world. But the question arises that L3 was daughter of L2 and L2 was daughter of L1. So why did these other lineages, which are still surviving in some tribes of Africa, why did they not come along with them? How did people identify that, okay, this is L3, let her go, and these are others, we will stay back? But we do not get any L3 in India, and so this is a very crucial question. So my proposal is, which is more plausible, but nobody wants to entertain that, but one day or other, when more resolution of DNA will be available, the fact always reveals itself. Why not we can imagine that L0, L1, L2, L3, and then M and N, they all originated in India. Then there was a migration to Africa before M and N, birth of M and N, and they have stayed there, but because of some catastrophe, some devastating effect, the senior members of the lineage died out in India. By their looks also, the L3 do not look African. These are a few Fulani ladies, which is a tribe of the West Africa and which harbors L3 lineage, and most surprisingly, traditionally they wear sari. So I am quite surprised, and I have been studying their culture over the last 15-20 years. So my proposal is this, which I just told you, and there was a Mount Toba volcano eruption, about which I will tell you a few words, which possibly eradicated all these. Mount Toba volcano eruption took place about 74,000 years back, and its direction of ash was towards India. Its main brunt was borne by India. Some people survived in Indonesia, and many more survived in Africa, but only 1,000 people survived in India, and some studies suggest 200 survived. At least 40 ancient lineages of humanity were completely wiped out. and those which have survived are L0, L1, L2, L3 and M and N. So total 6 lineages are there, 40 died out. Now, more point has emerged this year itself. DNA of a non-Eurasian hybridizing ancestor of Pygmy, Hadza and Sandave tribes was found. These are some tribes of Africa. Their DNA was studied, and these are the oldest tribes, lineage-wise. They also speak the oldest human language, click languages. And their number is very small. They have not adopted farming or anything. They are hunter and food gatherers. Very primitive. So their DNA contains some DNA, some gene, which is found nowhere else, and which must belong to some unknown ancestor which hybridized them in the past. And after hybridization event, that ancestor died, because the percentage of genes is very small, less than 1%. So it hybridized a few individuals and then died. The extinction took place out of competition of the two different type of, that was not Homo sapiens sapiens, but a close relative of Homo sapiens sapiens. But marriage was possible, because after all, Homo sapiens sapiens is a subspecies. It is not the species. Homo sapiens remains the principal species, and it has got 3-4 subspecies in past. So they could interbreed, although they were different people from different lineages. So this is the only possible way to explain these facts. That mitochondrial DNA Eve was in India. Then some people migrated after, say, lineage L0, L1 was born. They went to Africa. After maybe 30, 40, 50,000 years later, when L3 was born, and then hybridization occurred, and then they have become different because of that hybridization. They do not look like the rest. And then after L3 was born, then again there was a migration, and then we get Toba eruption after the birth of M and N. After L3 migrated, M and N were born in India again, and after Toba eruption, everybody else was wiped out, and M and N have survived. But whatever is the truth, we do not know. It will take more time, and we need to so far concentrate on those things which are definitely confirmed, which I have told you, Metz Palo's research. So there are other relatives of Homo sapiens. One is Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, died about 35,000 years back. Homo sapiens adultu, skeleton and skulls have been found, but no DNA available. But Neanderthal DNA has been recovered. Then there is Denisovan. This is the face of adultu, found in Africa, African skull, about 150,000 years old. One bone was found in Siberia, Denisova area, and it was a dark colored person, and gene was extracted out of that bone, and that gene has been found to be present in many people in this distribution, going up to Australia. So he was also hybridizing humans of that time. The location of Neanderthal was this green area, and he was a white person. And last year a paper was published in which Neanderthal gene was traced in modern humans also, and he did hybridize up to 7% of population. In some areas they are carrying Neanderthal genes. And he was white and probably blonde. These are the reconstructions out of the fossils. So we find that in 3 different parts of world, 3 different relatives of us existed and they were marrying with us. And possibly one possible home could have been away from them in India, from where people went to each of these regions, hybridized with local people, and then developed different facial features and different things. This is yet not proved, my theory. But there are hard facts, other hard facts, which we need to take account. Narmada man. This is the only human fossil found. This belongs to about 250,000, 2.5 lakh se 3 lakh saal purana. And it was earlier claimed that it is Homo erectus because its cranial capacity was found to be 1500 cubic centimeter. So different teams of scientists came from France and USA, studied it. Narmada man found in Hathnora region. Kennedy, famous, very famous scholar of skeletons, he died only last year. That is a huge loss to us. His study found that this was actually not a male but a female. And for female, 1500 cc is the maximum. Modern man, we get 1500 cc in female and 2000 cc of cranial capacity of the bone in man. So this was actually a modern man, wrongly labeled as a male of Homo erectus species. And D'Alembert was the French scholar who also held the same thing. And this was the oldest Homo sapiens found anywhere in the world, indicating that this was the ancestor of humanity. D'Alembert and Sonakia published a a paper declaring that the skull was ancestral to all the Indians. And by implication, this becomes the ancestor of all non-African humanity, because we have seen by genetic studies that everybody else other than Africans, they came out of India. Other skulls were found from Lanka, 2 human skulls. One other 160,000 years old skull was found from near Madras. It was named Laterite baby and reported by Rajendran. CT scans and many things were done and it was found to be Homo sapiens. So what happened to these reports? Now nobody in the mainstream cites these reports. They just ignore. Nobody contradicts, nobody cites, they just opt out and they write presuming and commenting like the previous reports. This is the distribution of Homo erectus. Now Malassi Debricourt, another lady, she has published her report after studying nearly all the fossil skulls from the world. She found that Taurus angularis is a part of a skull bone which is present in all modern humans, including Narmada man, but absent from nearly all of the African skulls and present only in one Rhodesia man and present in later African skulls, about 20,000, 30,000 year old skulls of Africa. Not 1 lakh and 1.5 lakh years old African skulls. No, they are not carrying that. So she proposed that Rhodesia man went to that place from India. So this is what, if her proposal is made into a graphic, this is this. And there is another evidence of Lake Mungo 3 DNA that I will talk now. So they also might have emerged from here at the same time. One went east, other went west. And you see, Narmada river is connected with Son river, and Son is connected with Ganga, and Ganga is connected with Brahmaputra, and like that, those people did not have pottery, so they were forced to live near rivers. They could not drink water if they lived anywhere away. So possibly they were using it as a highway, some sort of international highway. This is Lake Mungo 3 skeleton. This skeleton was found in 1960s from Australia. Lake Mungo is a huge lake there. It was dated 45,000 years old. Later, its DNA was extracted, and it was found that the DNA was 14 mutations older. That means 50,000 years older than the African Eve's DNA. So this skeleton, although the individual lived 45,000 years back, but in his bone there was a modern human DNA which was 50,000 years older than the first so far assumed human being, the African Eve. So this Adcock and Thorpe, two people wrote on this, and later on their papers, published papers, were also dumped. Although the DNA evidence is very hard evidence, it is a product of laboratory findings, yet they were dumped. So one more thing was found, that this Lake Mungo DNA, its degenerated form, is still found among us humans. Particular, what happened, its mitochondria became degenerated, and it got attached to one chromosome of modern humans by mistake, and that mistake is now continuing among us. So about 50% of us is carrying LM3 fossil gene, it has been named, denatured gene. That means that it was breeding with us and living along with us. So that place could have been India or somewhere, but not Africa at least. But then again, they have been dumped into oblivion. So now we can come to the latest DNA study by a more precise and more high resolution study, recombinant DNA study, which was published September 2011. It was funded by IBM, the computer company. It was very expensive, and so now it is really the final word, and it shows, it was published by National Geographic, their map. It shows that, yes, I mean, nobody can contradict the African origin. That will amount to blasphemy in modern science. Modern science also has got its dogmas and many things, even in physics and everywhere. So, yes, first people, humans, came out of Africa, then they came to Gujarat, and then two branches, one went to south, then along the sea coast, they migrated like this, and then they split to populate Central Asia, China, Tibet, and everywhere. And on this side, you see one branch went through Central Asia to Europe, and one branch North Africa, like that. And its finer details are also available, but they have not been published, printed in the news. So now we can come to the history of journey of mankind as told by Stephen Oppenheimer's slides. They are available on the net as the journey of mankind. If you search on the Google, you will get it. So this is about 85,000 years back. Then 74,000 years back, Toba eruption, destruction, again regeneration. After Toba eruption, there was a 10,000 years long cold period because sulfur dioxide was released, which causes cold, hyper cold phase. And then repopulation started, and first batch left from Sindh and Punjab region to West Asia. And then further batches left from this Indus and Punjab region, Central Asia. You see in the map, from Assam, people went to Tibet. And like that, North Africa also was populated. So these are the first human settlers on these respective areas. About 40,000 years back, then about 25 to 22,000 years back, people entered the Americas. And then you see, after this, there was again an ice age, and northern populations were wiped out. So then later, people started growing further north, and this is the story. Now, in brief, after giving you this background, I will like to touch the Aryan invasion theory also, because that concerns most of us very much. So, a few words. The Aryan languages or the Indo-European languages are spread in this geographical territory. It was the general belief of historians and linguists that none of the people living in India had originated in situ, in India. The North Indian Aryans, the Dravidians came from Elamite, North Indian Aryans came from Central Asia, and Munda, and that is Austro-Asiatic tribes came from Southeast Asia or South China. Mizo and Naga came from China. However, if I go back and come to this slide, these all slides refute. Even Mijos and Nagas, they also have originated in India, and from them the Chinese have been. Like this Adi, Arunachal Pradesh tribe, and Kalita of Jorhat, they were studied, their gene, and if we expand our study base, we will find that everybody went from India towards further, not from away to in. So, this is the language family map. Out of this, you see Mon Khmer or Munda family, or also called Austro-Asiatic family. These are also distributed from India going to Vietnam and Laos. Now, V. Kumar in his DNA study found that these people who speak these languages, they migrated out from India about 15,000 years back. And on the other hand, Colin Renfrew was suggesting on linguistic grounds that all the major language families were born in or around West Asia, although it had no support value. But Colin Renfrew is the doyen of archaeology all over the world. He is a very senior archaeologist. So what he says, nobody can contradict. Similarly, Bellwood. So now we come to the facts. The DNA studies demolished the myth that India was a no man's land. Out of Africa, only a small number of people, 50, about 50 it has been suggested, came to India. Then out of India, the rest of the world was populated. The first published work belonged to Quintana Mursi, 1999. Then Kivisild wrote, the genetic heritage of the earliest settlers persists both in Indian tribes and caste populations. Because what happened? People started saying that they came to India, but soon they migrated to other nations and again left India as a no man's land. And later they started migrating into India maybe 5,000 years back. This was again proposed by many. So Kivisild proved that the genetic heritage of the earliest settlers persists both in Indian tribal and caste populations. Kashyap, Mountain, Majumdar, these all same things, that Indian castes, all castes and all tribes, they share the same types of genes, same genetic lineages, DNA lineages, and they have descended from the ancestral population. Some people say came to India from Africa 50,000 years back, others scholars say 85,000 years back, but whatever is the time, they came and now they are continuing as we Indians. A lot of articles, I cannot cite them all, but I have read them all and they all conclude this. So Oppenheimer in his book wrote, and sure enough, we find highest rates and greatest diversity of M17 line in Pakistan. See, M17 people claimed is the evidence of Aryan invasion on India. M17 is also named R1 or R1A later, and later on its latest name is R1A1A. So Oppenheimer as early as 2003 found that it should be actually Indian origin, and from India it went to outside. And based on all these, an article was published that Aryan-Dravidian divide is a myth. Now there is only one possibility based on all these reports, DNA reports, that the Aryan languages, the Austro-Asiatic Munda languages and Dravidian, all the three originated in India in three parts, different parts, corners of this country. And why they became different? Because during the 5,000 years long ice age, people could not interact with each other, could not interbreed or marry or meet each other. So three different types of languages emerged from the past population, which existed here maybe 25,000, 30,000 years back. Okay? This is the only plausible solution to the complex picture. This is Reich et al.'s study of DNA, very extensive study. He found that after origin, human split into two, one remained in Africa, other split into two again, and from these two again two splits. One is Andaman Onge tribe and southern ancestral South Indians, not modern South Indians, ancestral South Indians. And the other branch again is split into two. Of course, this was happening in India because the first non-African man lived in India. So A and I, ancestral North Indian, and the European gene split from it. European gene also includes, if you read the journal article, it also includes West Asian and Central Asian. So if we change the drawing like this, this becomes this. And if we remember this, that Africa and a post-split population, first of this population lived in India, then this becomes the final picture that this event was taking place in India. However, this innocent report has been misquoted by people. Everywhere you will find on the net and in many published journals also. Reich et al. Said that after origin from Africa, it was the Europeans who gave birth to the North Indians. This you will find everywhere. This is wrong interpretation, because this event of further split was taking place in India. Now, how did we come, modern Indians? It has been found that ancestral North Indians and ancestral South Indians hybridized extensively, so that in India now genetically there is nobody a South Indian and nobody a North Indian. Their genes have mixed so much over the last 5, 10, 20,000 years. But yes, in the past, and you see in the National Geographic map, from Gujarat it splits into two, one going to south and one going to north. So that split is this point. Okay? So these all are consistent things and explain many things. Now we come to modified Aryan invasion theory. When so many genetic data came, DNA data came, there was a panic in their camps. So they started saying that Aryan invasion did not take place. Aryan migration took place. And the Aryan people had a very strong linguistic equipment. They had a very high quality language. By means of that, they were able to convert the North Indians into, so it is a conversion of language. That is what they are now proposing. And what happens? The DNA people, they do not know anything about history. They just ask Dorian Fuller, they will ring, or they will ring Bellwood, and they will say, it is a change of, language changes, Few people are required to change the nation's language, if they are strong enough, if they have willpower, if they are the ruling. So in that way, this is the modified Aryan invasion theory. Modified Aryan invasion theory says that Indo-European languages emerged in Ukrainian steppe. Steppe is a grassland, useless, farming cannot be done there. And there is one group of people who repeatedly says, no, it was born in Turkey. Turkey is called Anatolia in history. So it was born in Turkey, and they are also publishing their reports. So now there are two camps, Ukraine and Turkey. Turkey is a very minority, and Ukraine is dominating. And about 3,500 years back, they came to India and they converted the people. However, some people like Sahu, Kivisild, Metz, Palu's team studied, and they said, this quotation is from their article, the perennial concept of people, language and agriculture arriving to India together through the northwest corridor does not hold up to close scrutiny. Recent claim for a linkage of haplogroup J2L and R1A and R2 with a contemporaneous origin for the majority of Indian castes, paternal lineages from outside the subcontinent are rejected, although our findings do support a local origin of haplogroup F and H. These people, they have infiltrated the genetics study circle also. So these people were claiming that J2 came from West Asia, L came from again some portion of West Asia and infiltrated South India, Dravidian, and R1A from Central Asia, North Indian language, and R2 also from there, and F and H are also foreign DNAs. But this was ruled out by a very, very large study. Now, we know from linguistics that Combrie's article is a good summary, and my articles are also there on this, on the net available. Aryans or Indo-Europeans were farmers, definitely before a split into different places. How do we know this? Because words relating to farming is found in all the Indo-European languages. Like, milling. Milling is this process. And musal is Hindi and Sanskrit. Muhle is German. And molar teeth, grinding, anything which grinds. Molar is also this. Similarly, pitta, if you go to England, you find pitta bread there. Pitta is the name of bread in UK. Pizza or pizza you call it. T is silent in Italian. So, pitta, those who live in East UP, Bihar, they know what is pitta. And paste is the Sanskrit word for all these. These all come from paste or pis dhatu in Sanskrit, which means grinding, etc. Large number of words which prove that the Indo-European language before migration belonged to farmers. And where did farming culture originate? Ganga Valley pottery, Neolithic, 9,000 years old, Koldehwa, Lahora Deva, Jhusi, Bolan, and many places, they have been excavated. But people outside India, they do not want to refer to these places. Only one place, Indian place, is mentioned, known to the Western authorities. That is Mehergarh, now in Pakistan. It is a non-pottery Neolithic. Neolithic means farming-related site, where farming was done. It had artist cattle, and most importantly, it had dentist, very high-quality dentist. 6 teeth from some burial skeletons were recovered by Italian team, and they took it to their country and studied it under scanning micrographs, and they all had received high quality drilling treatment of the tooth. This was published by Koppa et al., Early Neolithic Tradition of Dentistry. It is about 8,000 years old. Now, further studies, these people were saying that cow was domesticated in West Asia, Turkey area, and then they came to India. And on the way, when they were coming through Iran, they developed the hump, hump they have here, Indian cows. But recent study by Chen showed that all the humped cows of the world, they are found in Europe, Africa, they are found in Mongolia, China, everywhere, Southeast Asia, and their gene shows that they developed and evolved out of India. Now the question arises that cows cannot migrate so far by their own, so must have been traded or transported or sold. This is Freeman's map of Indian cow distribution, and he found that in Africa there is a huge Indian cow gene, and this is most marked in the eastern horn of Africa. So he claimed that they were taken to Africa by sea route and they were traded. So his claim is that this is the first international sea trade zone. Indian Ocean was the first international sea trade zone. Maybe 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 years he finds. I mean, these people are very modest. So if they claim 20,000 years, they will be kicked out of the academic society. So he has claimed about 5,000 years back. Sea trade was taking place. But I have further studied their DNA reports, and actually this migration to Africa took place about 20,000 years back, if we trust the DNA reports. And this is another map made by European students of cow DNA. This is Piemonte cow, which is found, and not today, it is a quite old breed there in Italy. And it has been found that it migrated from Pakistan through this route. So, Cantane also studied widely cow genes and said that the mitochondrial DNA data indicates that the Ukrainian and Central Asian regions are zones where hybrids between taurine and zebu, zebu means Indian cow, taurine and zebu, Bos indicus cattle have existed. This zebu influence appears to have subsequently spread into southern and southeastern European breeds. See, this description is consistent with this map. But we know that Ukrainian, the said homeland of the Aryans, did not have cow, archaeologically we know, did not have cow till 4,000 years back. They start getting cow. And by DNA study, we can say that it was from India that these cows, zebu cows, went there 4,000 years back. So, how can it be proved that about 4,000 or 3,500 saal pehle they migrated from Ukraine to India? It is the reverse direction if we have to trust science. Very important. My article has been published in a journal on this, mice migration. It was found by so many authors, and there was no manipulation in the reports of mice, because it was thought that chalo ye to चूहे हैं, इनके जीन में क्या manipulate करोगे? Humans, when we will be talking about humans, we will manipulate. So it was found that all the domestic mice of the world, they originated from India. They originated in India about 500,000 years back. Domestic mice, 4 species, 3 species. But they did not leave India until 15,000 years back. Their first batches left India 15,000 years back. And they went out of India mainly in 3 routes, 3 species. They went into 3 directions. Castaneous, they went to Southeast Asia and China. This species you can match with the Munda family. We discussed earlier, migration. Then musculus species, it migrated on the same route as we saw, the cow migration map and R1A1A map. And this lower route went to Iran, Iraq, and then Mediterranean Sea through that Italy and Greece. So these 3 also overlap the 3 human DNA routes. Incidentally, it has been proved that domestic mouse cannot live without man, because he has developed the habit of eating only the refuse thrown away by man. Now the question is that man went out of India, we saw 50,000 years back also, but with them mice did not go, because those men did not took agriculture with them. They went out as hunters. And hunters would eat mouse also when starving. So they preferred to live in India, where most of the people were vegetarian, and they were getting the paddy fields, wild paddy fields. Even when we were not cultivating, we had wild paddy fields, and we were just harvesting and eating, maybe 100,000 years back. There is a mouse species which lives only in rice fields. 2 species. One is bandicoot species, very notorious in Godavari region. So this fellow lived in India till recently, and when people farming went to, it is wild, it is not a domestic species, but it is dependent on rice fields. So it has spread out of India with humans to Indonesia now, and their DNA shows that it is of Indian origin. And now it is, pestering the paddy fields in Indonesia. Another Borsot, another author, his details are also almost the same, route maps are the same. This is another author. His details are also the same. Picture is not so beautiful, but yes, matter is the same. So, and this is black rat. Black rat and mice are different things, but they also follow the same thing. Rat also has got 2 types. One is domesticated, another is wild or free living. The domesticated rice left India 15,000 years back and went with the wind. See, this map shows, you see, this is Australian author, only last year the article was published, you can see here that they are originating, and it is a detailed study. I will not bombard you with the details. And this map also you see from South India, they are emerging. Okay, this is human male DNA J2B. Now, this route map can be constructed that they left India and went along the sea coast of Iran to Turkey, and then by sea, every author has noted it that from Turkey to Balkans, Greece, they went by sea, not by land route. Many published articles. So, up to the point of Europe and Turkey, everybody says ki fine, farming, mouse and this lineage J2B migrated together. When it comes to India, the same author starts saying that possibly here they took a turn and from Turkey they migrated to India. Yes, but final resolution studies have shown that no, like this is Sen Gupta's study. She found that J2B2, the daughter of J2B, she was born near this part of UP, I think very near Kanpur. And Underhill found, this is very important map, 2009. This silenced everybody. Now nobody of them says that R1A is a marker of Aryan. Nobody says. They now say gene is gene in language is language. They have no relationship. Same people, I have talked with them. So 16,000, this is color coded, 16,000 years back, this DNA originated in Gujarat region, Sindh region, and from here you can see by colors, they migrated like this to Europe. By about 10,000 years back, they had reached East Europe. And I have written and I am proposing that this was really the marker of Aryan invasion, but invasion in which direction, that has been clarified by Underhill. Wells claimed in 2001 that this is a marker of Aryan invasion in India, because the same genes were found in all countries, their time had not been determined then. So I would say yes, he was correct, but now the direction has been found. Another important word, Cavalli Sforza, he found in 1998 that languages and gene lineages, they match very much. So he made a genetic tree and one language tree, and they overlapped. Hugo, another consortium, they studied and they also found that genes and language match very much. So, after having this much discussion, I can claim that this migration, number one, was the earliest in our slides, Southeast Asia. Then there we find this language, Melano-Polynesian language. This diagram is not very correct, but roughly we can assume. Number two is the Chinese language, which migrated with this in the migration map. Number three, Central Asia, the Altaic languages. Number four, Europe, the Indo-European languages here from India. Number five, the Arab and Egyptian and Libyan. So they can be labeled here, number five in the migration route. So by migration routes and language family overlapping tree, we can suggest that they are true. And I will end a few more slides. See, you have a word Bahin. Now, Austronesian languages have been studied by many scholars, and Bahin means woman in one language, Wahin in other language, woman, they all mean woman. Vahin, Vahina, Fafin, Bahin, and in Chinese I have added to this list Bo-Chin. In southeastern corner of China, there is a language, Zhanghao dialect, in which it is called Bo-Chin, mother. So they are all cognates of Bahin. Bahin remained in India, in this map if you see, and other words, forms, modifications spread into the Austronesian countries. And from Bahin in Sanskrit it became Bhagini. Bhagini. After all, Sanskrit is a sophisticated language. It has been modified by scholars to some extent. ये अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, इसको ये बना दो. Type of things were happening. Panini and Yask were doing that. So now Aryan invasion myth, few words. Horse, they claimed that horse was never born in India and they were brought by Aryans about after Indus Valley. But Lal, Bibilal, S.P. Gupta, Bokoni, etc. have proved that horse existed in India during Indus Valley civilization. And there are other works like Badam's finding of excavation says that horse was found 20,000 years old, Imamgaon in Maharashtra. And this G.R. Sharma, he found horse bones, real horse bones from Madhya Pradesh, like that, about 10,000 years old. So this horse theory was wrong. Then chariot theory, Saraswati, lot of people have written on that, I will not talk. Astronomical rejection of Aryan invasion theory, I will not talk on that. Many people are working on that. So I come to chariot. They said that Indians did not have chariot. Indus Valley does not show any chariot. And it came to India with the invading Aryans, and it was a spoked chariots. So this chariot was found at Harappa, copper chariot. Nobody has noted it, nobody has reported it. This is in the excavation report of M.S. Vats, Madhav Sarup Vats, the excavator general of the Archaeological Society of India. Then 1923. Then in Brooklyn University Museum on the net, I found this Harappa chariot toy. Then Daimabad, 2300 BC chariot. Daimabad is in Maharashtra, about same time as Indus Valley civilization. So chariots were there. Whether horse was used or ox was used is a different matter. It depends on availability to the villagers. But main thing is the chariot, two-wheel होना चाहिए. वो कहते हैं कि India had four-wheeled ones, no two-wheeled ones. Two-wheeled ones are faster and better for invading, but no, India also had two-wheeled ones, that we can show. And Indian vehicles were khataras, respectable khataras. Unfortunately, we hate this word now. So, and the Derivika horse, still people are writing on this. A true man, he wrote an Aryan invasion theory book. Last year Oxford published it. He has quoted this Derivika horse, but the truth is that, I am going to blog it very soon. David Anthony claimed in 1991 that he found a horse buried and 4200 BC, that means 6000 years old horse in Ukraine. Everybody accepted it. Now people were trying to date it, and finally it was found that soil was definitely 4200 BC, 6000 years old. But burial, the qabr, was made much later, recently, only 2000 years back from today by somebody, and he dug it deeper and deeper and then deposited his dead father or mother with a horse. So, the date of actual horse bone was found to be 2000 years from today, 200 BC. After this publication, David Anthony retracted from his claim in the same journal Antiquity in year 2000, and later he wrote this acceptance of his retreat in 2009. So now the status of horse in Ukraine is that horse is only 2000 years old there. Domesticated horse. A steppe horse DNA study found that the wild horse of the steppe, that region, that is called, I'm just forgetting the name, very difficult to remember its name, Samaski, Lavinsky horse or something. So it cannot be domesticated. It is big, it is very fast, and it has not been domesticated anywhere in the world. 77 places, different lineages of domesticated horse have been found from all over world. None of them is a steppe horse, Central Asian or Ukrainian wild horse, nowhere. So that proves the falsehood of the horse theory of the Ukrainians actually, and I have sent an article on this whole matter, may be published by next year, early next year, in an international journal. Fortunately, the editor of journal now likes my writings, so he may publish, but normally they don't publish such things. So now, this Bhimbetka hunter can be dated to much older. In India, although people say कि नहीं इसमें घोड़ा है तो 600 BC रखो. That is how they date it. And this is now come to another point. कि what was happening if Aryans were not invading? Then were we invading them during the Indus Valley? Yes. Caucasian Zebu, Copper Age, in the Caucasus mountain, they are Zebu. You can see, पीठ पर निकला हुआ है. They are all Zebus. They have been found. This is Elamite Zebu, Iran-Iraq border, 2000 BC, copper. All Zebus are of Indian origin, it has been proved. And this Zebu also showed that he was not very happy in Elamite country. So he became just kankal, you know. He became very thin and malnourished. And this is Hittite Zebu of Turkey, 1007 years old. So definitely during the Indus Valley period, people were going out of India and inhabiting those areas. That is why we get Indian type of influence there. Margiana, fortified city culture. So thank you very much. Any questions? Pardon?
Wine. We have not pointed to wines in the
Wine? Mayan. No, I restricted only to this region. Mayan is very old, and that is due to the migration 17,000 years back. So that time also it was because migrating from India, there may be many similarities, and later contact also were made through sea route. So there are influences, Indian influences on Maya, but they were not in the context, and the time was also short. Okay, then a lot of thanks for the patient hearing. Thank you.